We welcome everybody. I'm so happy you're here. This is one of my favorite things that I get to do out here as a historian, as a guide. I'm going to let you know what you got yourselves into right now. We're going to go on a behind-the-scenes adventure, which means we are going to see places that are not open to the general public. We're going to hear stories that we normally don't tell to the general public. Now, you paid for 2 tours in one, which means after this behind-the-scenes tour, you're automatically going to be folded into what we call the night tour. It's not a single tour like what you paid for on this. It's going to include a few different experiences. It's going to include a 30-minute audio tour. You're going to get a lot of great views and stories inside the cell house. Don't worry, we're going to make our way up to that cell house. But if you're curious about like the 62 Escape, D-Block Solitary Confinement, one of those classic stories of Alcatraz, trust me, the audio tour is going to give you a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different things to chew on up there. We don't have time for that. We're going to do other things, tell you other stories that we normally don't tell the public, okay? Which means that your first opportunity, your only opportunity, really, unless you want to leave on an early report and miss part of what you paid for, is going to be 6:25. Okay? We're going to end about 5 o'clock. You have a 30-minute audio tour. Then you have an hour. Go to a live talk. We have a whole series of live talks tonight. Go to another exhibit. Check out the view. If you can handle the cold out there. We got a brand new shiny exhibit right in this building all about the Native American occupation. Plenty to do before 6:25. If you are too cold, you don't want to be stuck on an island with a bunch of strangers, you got dinner reservations, you want to leave early, we have a few but limited options for you to leave earlier than that. You gotta let Ranger Anna or myself know if you want to leave before 6:25, because there's a certain point where there's not gonna be any boats for you. Okay.
4:25, right?
What's up?
4:25.
4:25, I think, is our only option before then, which means you'll miss part of the night tour here. Okay, folks. All right. Let's get out of the wind a little bit. We're gonna go to our first behind-the-scenes area. Throughout this island, it's one big giant tripping hazard, okay? Watch your step. You need to eat, drink, smoke, or bathe only down here at the dock. Don't collect anything off the island. Bird sticks, rocks, feathers, park rangers, all protected by law, okay? Don't take a chunk of the building off of the island, all right, folks? Let's warm up. We're going to head up some stairs, all right? Watch your step. Follow me. Oh, my goodness. I wish. Come on over here.
Good energy.
Oh, yeah. Wait a second.
Yeah, let's take back one.
Alrighty, folks, as you come up on the balcony, we're going to go around the other side to get a little bit of shelter from this wind. Everybody going up, alright.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm so used to saying that. You're not right. Oh, the wind is already way better. It's so cold.
When the wind is at your back, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Our partner, excellent. Wonderful. Again, welcome everybody. Now, if we were standing here at this point in the 1930s, we would have been here at a time of dramatic change for Alcatraz Island. In the 1930s, this comes at the era where the U.S. military gives up on Alcatraz. They say, forget that military prison. It is too expensive to operate out here in the middle of San Francisco Bay. The U.S. military sells Alcatraz. They give Alcatraz to the Bureau of Prisons in the 1930s, who takes an old cell house and converts it into the world's first super maximum security penitentiary, right? But the only problem is that cell house that we're going to visit here in a few moments is completely empty. And they tap this guy, Warden Johnston. He's a state warden here in California. He gets a federal prison job. He is now going to be the new warden at a brand new Alcatraz. Now, in the 1930s, this is going to go from minimum security to maximum security. It's going to go from military to civilian prisoners out here. And Warden Johnston, he is tasked with bringing in prisoners to fill that cell house. This is how he sells it to the American public. We're going to fill Alcatraz with the quote-unquote, not minimum security military prisoners, but the nation's worst of the worst. Have you heard that before? Worst of the worst. Now, Warden Johnston, he has to get men who are already incarcerated. He's not pulling men off the streets of San Francisco. In order to come here to Alcatraz, you most likely were already incarcerated in another federal penitentiary. You were maybe an escape risk, especially violent, a troublemaker, what they call a racial agitator, somebody who fought for desegregation, somebody who was an alleged communist, somebody who gave the Bureau of Prisons issues. You could be disappeared here for an average of about 8 years. Alcatraz, starting in the 1930s, begins as a punishment prison, in between punishment. Most men are not going to serve life here. They're going to serve an indefinite amount of period of time here, then be sent back to their original institution. Warden Johnston, he has to grab men from Washington State, Leavenworth, Kansas, Atlanta, Georgia. He's got to transport men on armored train cars, bars on the window, armed guards at either end with 12-gauge shotguns. You, as an incarcerated person, are going to be shackled at the ankles to your seatmate coming from Georgia, from Kansas, from Washington State. Now, these trainload of incarcerated men, they're going to arrive right out here in the eastern part of the bay in Oakland, California. But then Warden Johnston figures, well, maybe their buddies might try to bring them out. Maybe the media will swarm these train cars trying to get a good picture to sell in the newspapers. So he diverts these trains. He takes them all the way out behind Angel Island to a sleepy little railroad town called Tiburon, California. And there he figures, well, I'm going to take the prisoners still locked inside, still shackled at the ankles. I'm going to roll them off of the rails onto the water. And he puts these train cars on top of a big long barge. And he pulls and he tugs it across the bay. And several hours through the wind, through the currents, through the cold, they finally get here to that original pier we were just standing right next to. As incarcerated men are filling this island in the 1930s, there are other people filling this spot where we're standing right now. The guards and their families coming out here. There's a gentleman named Ernest Lageson. He was a school teacher from North Dakota. He gets a job here on Alcatraz as a correctional officer, as a custodial officer coming out here. And he's expected to come out here to Alcatraz and make a difference, maybe teach a little bit. And he arrives here on this island, and he takes a ferry from San Francisco, and he's kind of worried about his new job. He says, there she lay, Alcatraz Island, surrounded by a halo of fog. He said, Alcatraz to me looked like a ghost ship at anchor. He said, I was nervous for what awaited me here on this rock. Now, Ernie Loxton would be kind of disappointed. He thought this island was about rehabilitation. Warden Johnston made it clear that this island is for maximum punishment, minimum privileges. He would eventually stay on. He'd move into this building we're standing in front of right now. This was housing for new arrivals right here. And the biggest perk about Alcatraz in terms of being a guard out here, you could bring your family. There are many kids who grew up right where you're standing right now. And I'll share with you a photograph of a little girl named Sydney Cupp. She was on the cover of Collier's magazine. She was standing just down the path there on that balcony. A little bit of normalcy out here on Alcatraz. Not the Alcatraz I thought I was getting myself into when I first started coming out here, that's for sure. Folks, we're going to continue up closer to the cell house here. I want to take you to a part of the island. It's pretty unique. I could tell a lot of stories up there. But we're going to get up to the cell house as soon as we can. We're going to go up this staircase right here. You'll notice that there are handrails, but at the very, very top, we're missing the handrail. There are 3 steps you need to traverse without a handrail. There is a wall. Take your time, watch your step. If you have any issues with this, please let me or raise your hand and know. Watch your step. We got time. We're going to head up that staircase. I'm going to lead the way. Come join me when you're ready.
Is my recording interrupting you at all?
Not at all. Nope.
All right, thanks.
I'm just going for still shots. Mostly Nick. Look at some old textile mills. All good stuff.
Just think, if you were standing here in the late 1800s, you would have been completely encased in rock here. Every single piece of rock to make this flat area is hand carved by prison labor. Military prison labor. The U.S. military thought they could level this island all the way down to the water. This is as far as they got. Pickaxes, shovels. In the 1850s, Alcatraz is this big rounded rock in the middle of the bay. There are no flat areas to speak of. The California there are a lot of immigrants here in San Francisco. They're not finding gold, but they are finding work here in San Francisco and here on Alcatraz. In the 1850s, the U.S. military, they move in, they have a rocky mass in the middle of the bay, and they task 3 immigrants, 2 from Germany, 1 from Ireland. They give them some pickaxes, some shovels, and before they start work on this area, they have to just carve a road all the way up to the summit. There's no flat areas. They start at the water and they hack their way up to the top. They only get about a quarter of the way up. And Lieutenant Prime, he's the commanding officer back when this is a military fortress. He's inspecting their work. And he turns around and he's facing the water and he feels the ground start to shake beneath his feet. He hears what he thinks is like a steam engine coming straight towards the island. He looks down towards that dock and he sees 4,000 cubic feet of Alcatraz rock, enough to fill a ferry back home to San Francisco, has landed on top of these 3 men. Under the first story, they discover Antoine Weiderman. He's that immigrant from Germany. His leg is so badly swollen, so greatly broken, according to the newspapers, he's rushed to San Francisco, probably for an amputation. 4 stories down, they discover the bodies of Jacob Unger and Daniel Pewter. These are Irish immigrants. And tragically, they're buried. They're crushed, they're killed by the Alcatraz rock. They're the first recorded deaths on this island, 1856. That's the first news story that reaches San Francisco. Not an escape attempt, not any battles, not yet, but the death and injury of these 3 men carving up this land we're sharing today. Folks, you're going to see more of their handiwork as we make our way up this trail here. We're going to get closer to that cell house right up at the top. Just really quickly, I was showing you that photo of Sydney Cupp. She used to come out here, she'd get her tricycle, broomstick, and a bed sheet. And they'd start right over there, the old apartment buildings, and they would come sailing across this parade ground. From one front door into the next, right over here. So, any way to make fun out here on the island. When we go up this trail, folks, there's about 10 feet, maybe about 2 meters of gravel. The rest is concrete, and then some steep stairs. Take your time. Let's get up to that cell house. Let's get up to that warden's house right at the top. Watch your step. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Come on down, folks. Get your breath. I'm gonna post up right here. Folks, I want to pass out this document here from the archives. I'll start on this side here. What I'm going to be handing out is called an Associate Warden's Card. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the man I'd like to share a story about right here. Every man who arrives here on the island, they're going to get their own Associate's Warden card. It's like an identification card. It's going to tell you your criminal history, how long you're here, where you're going to go after this, any special notes that the Bureau of Prisons wants to put on there. And that's going to be passed around here. But that gentleman, his name was Mr. Elliot Michener. Now, Mr. Elliot Michener is first arrested when he's about 13 or 14 years old, petty theft. He's booked into a little local jail up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. He breaks out of that jail pretty easily. The law catches up with Mr. Michener a little bit later in life when he tries to make his own $10 bills. But get this, he gets 15 years for possessing the engraving plate that he's going to use to stamp out his own money. He then gets 15 years for just attempting to make a Federal Reserve note. 30 years to be served at United States Penitentiary, Leavenworth. Now he gets there. He's involved in a labor strike. He takes that opportunity to sneak out of the back of that prison factory. Now an escape attempt is going to get you a transfer here to the Rock. It's going to get you punishment here on Alcatraz. And what we have to realize is that he already knew a lot about Alcatraz. Men who are freed from this island are typically going back to Leavenworth to finish out their sentence. His head is swarming with ideas about what he's going to see here, who he's going to be selling next to, what the guards are going to be like. He's pretty terrified. Anybody would be. And he boards that prison transport train. They finally take off his shackles when he reaches that cell house. And right away he's given a job. Now he can work his way up. He can earn a good industries job, 9 to 19 cents an hour, making Army uniforms, mending cargo nets for the United States Navy, but he's a new arrival. Unpaid maintenance job. Now every day, just down the path here, men are going to be lined up in the recreation yard. That's that big concrete wall. Now they're only recreating 2 days out of the week, bridge, dominoes, baseball, things like that. But then 5 days out of the week, you're going to line up on long yellow lines. You're going to see words like dock and laundry. You're going to line up according to your work assignment. Then you're going to be marched down a steep, long flight of stairs just down the path. Looks a little bit like this back in the day. Pretty windy, pretty cold. You get a glance of the Golden Gate Bridge right out there. Now, most men, they're making a right-hand turn into the prison factories beyond that wall. You can check that out tonight on your night tour. But Mr. Elliot Michener, he makes a left-hand turn, and there used to be a big giant guard tower blocking our view of Mount Tamalpais right out there. Now, under supervision, Elliot Michener's job is to collect stray handballs and softballs that have fallen over that rec yard wall and have tumbled down the path and have tumbled down the cliffs right over there. For 8 hours a day, he's going to collect handballs and softballs and put them in a bucket. He's going to haul them back up those stairs into the rec yard. He's going to repeat the process over and over again. Now he comes out here day after day. He's by himself, save for the guard above him. And one day he bends down in some of the old rubble out there, and he sees something that's not a handball, it's not a softball. These two big brass keys, right? These keys did and still do open up every single cell in that cell house. You find guards' keys lying at your feet, probably dropped from the guard in that tower. What do you do?
Shut up.
Honest visitors today. Now, maybe you've had a single moment in your life that has transformed the rest of your life, that has changed the trajectory of your life. Now, his moment isn't just the dumb luck of finding keys dropped by the guard. It's what he does next. He picks them up. Fisherman's Wharf is 1.25 miles away. If the breeze is right, you can smell the steaks being cooked. You can hear the party boats just off the cliff here. His buddies are just right there. He's got keys. So he goes down towards the water. Right over there. His buddies are there. The keys are in his hand, and he walks up the path, and he returns the keys to the nearest guard. Returns the keys. Now, the warden, the prison administration, they're just as baffled. They're saying, well, this island is supposed to be for the incorrigible, the irredeemable, men who cannot be reformed, men who need maximum punishment, minimum privileges. And you're telling me a maximum security prisoner from Leavenworth has had the decency, the honesty to take his chance at freedom, but doesn't. We say, well, thank you very much, Mr. Michener. You're somebody who can be trusted. So we're going to give you another job. Now, the island was in pretty poor shape. It is rock and concrete. Residents of San Francisco are not very happy this place has gone from military prison to maximum security penitentiary in their own front yards, no vote, bam, the federal government is right here, let alone Alcatraz. So they say, well, Mr. Michener, we need your help. We can trust you a little bit. How about you become our inmate gardener? Now, it doesn't come with any pay. We'll give you a bucket, we'll give you a shovel, we'll give you access to the prison library. Figure it out. Mr. Michener knows nothing about how to prune a rose. He's never planted a tree. He doesn't know a dahlia from a daisy. But he knows a lot about how to make a fake $10 bill. But he takes this moment of trust, this opportunity, and he introduces about 200 varieties of plants to this island with the help of a trusted guard. Seed catalogs he checks out in the prison library, and a second chance. We're still in his legacy right now. Mr. Michener is so trusted, his uniform it changes. It goes from blue, like my uniform here, to all white. He becomes a passman, a reservation orderly, a trustee, depends on what document you read. But he becomes a passman for the warden, which means he has to make the warden's coffee, make his bed. He sits down with Mrs. Swope, the warden's wife, to pick out horses to bet on at Golden Gate Fields, a horse racing track. He's close with the family, all to say he does not want to leave this island. He said, gardening gave me a lasting hope, something I could actually be creative at out in the fresh air, something honest I could do with my life. Now, he finishes out his time in Leavenworth. He comes back to Southern California, but he cannot shake Alcatraz loose from his memory. He's going to write the warden years into freedom. Letters, postcards, Christmas cards. Go to the National Archives. Pull out his file. You'll see postcards from Southern California or the dairy he worked at in Madison, Wisconsin. And it says, how you doing, warden? How's the wife? How's the dog? But more importantly, How are those roses doing? How are my geraniums? How's that green legacy I left out here on this island? Mr. Missioner would return to this island a free man in old age and recount his memories here right where we're standing. We're in his legacy right now. And I wonder, if there's second chances here on this island, a little bit of redemption, a little bit of hope. What about those that are incarcerated maybe in your own backyard? Elliot Missioner complicates that the worst narrative just a little bit. Folks, I want us to go up the road here. I want us to get into that cell house, of course. It's going to require just a little bit of a hike up there. We're going to pass a restroom. If you need it, use it. More time we spend in there, less time we get to spend in the cell house. But if you need it, use it. All right? Let's head up the path here.
We are too. They know what people need here on the island. We're just going to be up here just for a moment to gather everybody. Every time I'm up here, I think about Jim Albright. He was a guard out here for a long time. His first day of work was right here, looking out at San Francisco. He said, it often struck me as ironic working out here on Alcatraz. He said, one minute you'd be outside admiring the beautiful San Francisco skyline, inhaling ocean breezes. But then he said 30 yards and 3 metal doors later, you enter the domain of some of the most infamous criminals. He says, that's what I was expecting to see. He says, once I stepped in that inner sanctum, he says it was serious business. All lighthearted conversations ceased. Let's enter that inner sanctum right now, just around the corner. Let me lead the way. Yeah. How do we enter this door? My ears are cold.
The doors. Maybe just a break from the wind will be nice.
Need a beanie bag? Okay. You know, since you forgot our beanies at home, after I told you to grab them.
It was my idea. But it'll be nice and toasty and pictures or freeze before. And I will freeze butter.
much in the front. Well, folks, welcome to the cell house. Welcome to Broadway. And folks, this building, this infamous, this world famous cell house, I hate to break it to you, is built to be a minimum security military prison. United States Disciplinary Barracks, Alcatraz Island Pacific Branch. It's completed in 1912. They used military prison labor to construct this building. Military prisoners are just put in these makeshift wooden barracks all over the island. This island was never supposed to be an island of prison. It's a military fortress for a majority of its history. Turns out nobody wants to invade San Francisco. It becomes a great place to incarcerate folks. Those soldier prisoners caught stealing from the quartermaster, deserting the army, murder abroad, they come here to Alcatraz and they construct their own cells only to move into them by 1912. If you were standing in this cell house in 1912, you would see 600 out of 600 cells completely full, at capacity. By the 1930s, the quote-unquote the worst era, the maximum security era, they only filled this place halfway. 286 is the max. But in either era, when you're here on Broadway, it's the worst place to be. This is where new arrivals are going to be celled. You have the least amount of privacy. Least amount of heat. There are steam radiators. It takes 800,000 gallons of diesel fuel to pump 1 million pounds of steam heat into this building every year during this operation. On Broadway, you're not feeling those steam radiators coming from the edges in. This is also a segregated island, a segregated cell house when the U.S. military with other institutions had desegregated. Alcatraz remained segregated. Non-white incarcerated folks are always celled on Broadway, where no cell changes. Now here on this island, Warden Johnson figures out that, well, minimum security infrastructure is not going to cut it. We need maximum security infrastructure. After all, this is the nation's worst of the worst, as he puts it. So he has the Stewart Iron Works Company construct new doors. They're out of Cincinnati, Ohio. No more flat bars that swing open. These doors are going to swing side to side. No more unlocking doors individually, going face to face with every single prisoner. These doors are going to be operated remotely. Now look to your right, look to your left. You are always going to be under surveillance from an armed guard starting in the 1930s. The only places where guards are armed on this island are in the gun galleries, these walkways, and in the guard towers. In the cell house, very few blind corners. You're always going to be surveilled, especially here on Broadway. This is also the sound that you're going to hear about 6 to 8 times a day. average of an 8-year sentence. When Jim Quillen gets released, he said that any sound of metal banging together on the TV, on the radio, out in the free world, would bring him right back here. No matter where he was in the world, that sound would bring him right back here to his cell. The sound of this cell board system lived within Mr. Quillen long after Alcatraz. Something that really stuck with him. Maybe it'll stick with you tonight too. But I want to take us, folks, a little bit back in time, to kind of back up, wind the clock back just a little bit. I want to take us to a place that was largely invisible, deliberately hidden for many generations. But now as a national park, we have that access. On behind the scenes, we have that access. We're going to walk down the tier here, folks. We're going to go down the stairs and towards this clock here, toward X.
I think they were cops, babe, because I saw one down there.
I can't even think about how somebody would try escaping.
To the toilet.
I mean, look at that. That thing is tiny. Is that the cot that they would sleep on?
I saw a cot, like an actual folded cot down there.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, wow.
It's pretty simple.
We're standing in what was once the barber shop here on the island. Scoping out, seeing who's left. And don't worry, folks, on your audio tour, it's going to take you all through these aisles themselves, too. Give you a chance if you want to go into the cell spot. Folks, come join me over here. Just mentioning, luckily, your audio tour is going to cover a lot of the cell house on the ground floor. It's pretty cool. Come on through, folks. We're going to go back in time. Right behind me is a place called A Block, the ABCD block out here. Rather small, looms large in our imagination, but only 600 cells. Now, I say 286 is the max in that maximum security era, 30s to the 1960s, because A Block right behind me is never needed. It's never used. It's maybe a quiet place to meet your lawyer, a place to store big polishing machines. These floors used to be so polished you could see your own reflection in them, but A Block from the 1930s to 1960s does not house men. Now, we're going to go back into an era when this place was first built. You're going to see the old military style cells, but I want to take you somewhere even older, even more hidden. And when we go down there, folks, we're going to be going downstairs. We're going to be going down some really odd stairs. Please use the handrail. When we get down there, we're going to be putting on hard hats. There's a little adjustment in the back if you're not familiar with that style of hard hat, okay? There's going to be some low overheads. We're not going like spelunking or like cave diving down there. Sorry. It's a different national park. But once we get down there, just watch your head, and we're going to take a tour of this area down here. Of course, we're going to talk about it, share with you some stories. If you're not comfortable being semi-underground, it's just not your thing, confined spaces, let my partner know we got a great alternative for you. I'll mention to you folks, be careful not to touch anything or lean up against anything. I have a bad habit of leaning. There's just a lot of things down there you don't want on or in your body.
Welcome to the A Block.
handrail and join me down there, okay? If you're comfortable. All right, come on down.
Like, isn't it? Didn't one of them climb so bad? And then I know you gotta catch me afterwards.
I was really kidding. If you really have to, it's fine.
I want to respect how people feel about it. Some people are not into it. I get it. Should we smile? Just pretend I'm not here.
I got it. Not with the head, no, the head's not staying on me.
Again, folks, screw in the back if you need it. I gotta take my hat off.
You guys get one of these hats too. There you go. It smells a little musty.
So obviously, we are underneath the cell house right now. We are under one of the oldest parts of the island. Nearly every single building on Alcatraz is built on top of the ruins, the remains of Fortress Alcatraz, Army Post Alcatraz. Anytime you see red brick on this island, it's a clue to know that's coming from the 1850s, 1860s. Back when Alcatraz had 111 cannons, a crew of a dozen to fire a 400-pound cannonball the size of a beach ball 4 miles out to sea. A lot of soldiers were needed to man these cannons. Even in this structure, you'll see narrow, skinny windows for defensive purposes. This was an apartment building behind me, military barracks. Officers, enlisted men operating the artillery batteries here on Alcatraz, 1850s to the early 1900s out here. This is the citadel, the last line of defense. This is a dry moat, so to speak, a ditch, like what you would see on medieval castles, inspired by that down here. Right behind you, storage units for food, provisions, things like that they would need. Now down here, there's a hidden workforce. There's an invisible workforce working down here. For all the officers that are living in what was once 2 stories of brick above us, they have to level those 2 stories to build the cell house on top of us. This would have been daylight. There would have been 2 more stories of brick above us. And down here is where Chinese immigrants cook the meals for officers right above us. Down the hallways where Irish laundresses did laundry for enlisted men and officers out here. If you're an Irish laundress working here, down here in the basement, you can earn more than a private in the U.S. Army during this period. Right? Very lucrative business to be in the laundry business out here. So really powering this island down here in the bowels. We're going to go down the central corridor. If you'd like to step in one of these rooms, you're welcome to. We don't have a whole lot of artifacts left down here because, well, there's been a lot of change, to say the least. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back around. But do watch your step, watch your head down here. What you're going to be seeing are the remains of kitchens, laundry facilities, storage units, anything you keep in your basement, they kept down here during that period. This space is going to change. We'll talk about that once we do a lap around, okay? Come join me down here, watch your head.
Another concussion.
When it benefits you to be short.
That's what I'm saying, though, is everyone just short?
And we got to remember, these are added, right, in 1912. These are the utility chases down here. So where the plumbing and the electricity is going.
So they didn't used to be this short?
No. Even that little bathroom, that little hallway, there's a building on top of it.
Okay.
Of course, modern sizing and upgrades here going on right now.
That's kind of a great sign.
Right, don't say no to us.
Don't tell me I love my life.
We have labor bill.
Yeah.
Prison labor.
We're here, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're an earthquake country.
Yep.
So half of the cell house closed for 2 years.
My age.
But we're lucky when it's come back.
I have to tell my coworker kind of the same thing.
Do you know what those toilets
all right.
Those islands abandoned between 63 and 69. And so between just being abandoned and vandalism, the Native American occupation, there's just a real business taking anything valuable like beds and toilets and other facilities.
Got it.
Yeah. You'll see a good example of these rifle slits here. Some of these still have the original cast iron door. Nobody tries to invade Alcatraz. And so the Irish laundresses, the Chinese servants working down here, the spouses of these military men, they said, forget it. We don't want a narrow, skinny window. It's poor ventilation. You'll see on the other side where they took two rifle slits that are close together, did some demo work, and made a giant window, adapting to this space. Come around the corner and you'll get a sense of that. Right over here is where they took out these rifle slits. Think about the ventilation down here. That's it, back there. All right. Doing cooking, you want to cook it.
So the monitoring, do they live on
Almost everyone who lives on the island, we're talking about soldiers during the fortress era, guards during the prison era, everybody who lives here. So it's a mix of free and incarcerated. There you go. That was attack. Folks, for this next phase here, there are 4 rooms. We're back on that side. Choose one of these rooms to go into. And if you like, you can hang out with me down here on the hallway. 4 rooms down here. I won't make you make new friends. You can divide yourselves into these 4 rooms if you don't mind. 4 down here. Any choice. Down here, folks. Any one of these rooms will do. See how many times I can hit my head on this today. 4 rooms down here. That's not your thing. Hang out with me down here in the dry moat.
We're here.
Thank you. Well, as you can imagine, folks, this place changes a lot. 1912, there's a giant cell house on top of us. This becomes an even darker, even danker basement out here. Now we have to remember 1912, just a few years after this place was built on top of us, this giant cell house we were just in, World War I breaks out in Europe. Now it's very controversial, to make a long story short, here in the United States. There are some folks that feel like we need to help out the Europeans, we need to fight for democracy at home, but also abroad. There are isolationists here in the United States which say that's a European problem. Yeah, good luck. We're doing our own thing here in the United States. But San Francisco, it's a military town. It's a pretty conservative town. It is pro-business. A lot of these businesses were making goods for the war effort. And they want to prove to Washington, D.C., they want to prove to Woodrow Wilson at the time that San Francisco is a patriotic town. That we are prepared for war. You say the word, San Franciscans will volunteer. We are with you, Mr. President. And they want to prove to Woodrow Wilson that San Francisco is on board. They throw a giant party. It's called the Preparedness Day Parade. They get 50,000 people, enough to fill up Levi's Stadium. Down Market Street, they're crammed on a hot July day, July 22nd, 1916. There's the California National Guard marching down. They've returned, from the Philippines. You have nurses, you have business groups, floats, little kids with flowers walking down the street. It is a giant pro-war party. But other folks come just to hear the 52 bands that are playing so loudly you could hear them right up there at the Lighthouse Plaza. But 30 minutes into this parade, a suitcase is dropped from a 2-story window. There's a pipe bomb about this big inside, filled with thousands of metal slugs. Pipe bomb explodes on the corner of Market and Stewart Streets outside of the Ferry Building. You can stand there today. It injures 40. It kills 10 innocent bystanders, among them children. Local anarchists take credit. Now, the actual perpetrators are never caught. They wrongfully convict 2 men, and they spend several years at San Quentin State Prison, only to be pardoned by the California governor. But a group of anonymous anarchists say, well, this is part of our direct action. They felt that the only way to get their anti-war message across was to use violence. They argued that political violence was the only way, direct action, throwing a pipe bomb in the Preparedness Day parade was the only way to get their message across. And sure enough, I mean, there's fault lines in society, there's cracks in the sidewalk, and Woodrow Wilson, he still thinks 1 million men are going to volunteer for service. Maybe not so much as San Francisco anymore. He gets 73,000 men. He has to institute something that I was subjected to when I turned 18 as a U.S. citizen, the Selective Service Act. This comes about during the First World War. It's Woodrow Wilson's attempt to get enough men conscripted to fight now in Europe. He's committed to war. This is what the original draft card, registration card looked like. And nobody is exempt. If you're a fighting age male, you need to sign up. You can't pay your way out like the American Civil War. So much so that this is Babe Ruth's registration card down here.
Wow.
Now, it's going to come with a little number. That number is going to be ripped off. It's going to be put in a gelatin capsule. It's going to be put in a glass bowl. And every so many days, the local drafts board is going to pull out these capsules, put your number and your name on the board. If your name is on the board, you're drafted, you're conscripted. You're going to go fight. But there is an exemption down here. Not really an exemption, but to give you an idea of the attitudes at the time. Right down here, and it's a little blurry. It's an old archival document we photocopied, but it says, if person is of African descent, tear this corner off. Now, Robert Simmons grows up in Savannah, Georgia, and he gets this registration notice, and he's a law-abiding man. He comes from a deeply religious family. And he gets this registration notice. He has to rip off this corner because he's going to be put in a segregated unit. Black men during this period are not allowed to fight in a combat role. There's the famous Harlem Hellfighters who do see combat, but they are led by French officers. American officers refuse to lead them into battle. Robert Simmons is put in the forest of France, chopping down trees to line the trenches on the Western Front, where there he has a crisis of conscience. What he's being asked to do is not aligning with his religious values, not aligning with his Christian values. And so he starts to disobey orders. And the records are a little fuzzy in France, but we know that he's court-martialed. He's given a long prison sentence. And the brand new, shiny military prison, the disciplinary barracks the taxpayers have paid for, is now Alcatraz Island. Robert Simmons and many, many other conscientious objectors are incarcerated on Alcatraz for refusing military service or for refusing to disobey orders once they reach combat. These men are put in the third-class status, and we know that Robert Simmons, along with many other men, are placed down in these storage units, which were deliberately converted into dungeon-like cells. We know that there are an iron door here, or an iron cell door, big brick walls on either side right here. And we know that men are high-cuffed, like Philip Grosser is high-cuffed to his cell front. Robert Simmons is subjected to another form of punishment called the standing cell, right upstairs, where he is put in a 23 by 12 inch cage within a cage. He's taken from this dungeon upstairs and crammed into here, where the military officers say, well, if you are not going to stand at attention, if you are going to disobey orders, we are going to ensure that you stand at attention. Now, folks, the only reason we know this is because concerned citizens, newspaper reporters, women's civic organizations, civil liberties groups come out here to Alcatraz because they get rumors that there are men being tortured in medieval-style dungeons. It's probably a myth. They come out here, they want to do some investigative work, and they come out here, and I'll read to you just one account from a local newspaper up in Montana. Because families are searching for their young men, and oftentimes they're finding them here on Alcatraz being tortured right where you're standing. And this says, there's a Sheridan County boy, a conscientious objector, being tortured on Alcatraz. Island in San Francisco Bay. This is a newspaper article from 1919. It says, John A. Harderson was known and loved by all his neighbors. He was honest, clean, lovable, a Christian gentleman, loved and respected by all his friends and neighbors. But now he's in solitary confinement on Alcatraz Island. And while he's not in the dungeon as of yet, he's in a dark cell with no air and just bread and water. He's now spent 42 days and 14-day periods in solitary confinement. It says, publicity has caused certain desired changes recently made to the treatment of conscientious objectors. He said the notorious dungeons, when we arrived, were that week empty. Cement floors were being laid down in the dungeons to make it look like nothing ever happened. Those dungeons should be described again and again, this reporter goes on. He says, until people outside prison wake up and demand a change. He says if dogs or cats or horses were confined in such places, the humane societies would act at once to release them and punish their oppressors. A critique, an expose of the treatment of conscientious objectors here. These articles, that illustration of the standing cell, they go viral across the United States. The public is outraged. The War Department comes out here, they do an inspection, they demand that the military stop using dungeons. So officials here on the island come up with these standing cells, but yet again investigators come out and demand they stop using these. Now Robert Simmons would be released early in terms of his sentence, but they would keep him a year after the First World War ends. He's released in 1920. When Warden Johnson moves in here, he reopens these dungeons and uses them from 1936 to 1939 to punish men who were involved in labor strikes for singing in loud voices, alleged communists, circulating petitions. This is from the Bureau of Prisons' own archival records. Now, we didn't know so much about the 1930s until this place became a national park. We were able to dig out the sources to help figure out and shed light on this pretty dark place. And I think this island is so visible, right, a mile and a quarter away, on TV, Hollywood. What actually went on here is very invisible. It took the work of people just like us, people that are interested in history coming out here to really shed light on what was going on. And I wonder if there's something in your community, your hometown, your personal life that you want to shed light on. I think you already made a pretty bold step by being here. Folks, I want to get us to another thing, if only but very briefly. There's an opportunity that we can have here to have a dark cell demonstration, if you would like. Just a little idea. Just a very small glimpse at what it was like to be down here in complete darkness for up to 14 days at a time. If you'd like to partake in this, and if you don't, I totally understand. I hit you with a lot of difficult history. You can join me right up the stairs. I'll give you a special task to do. But if you stay here, I'll take that as you want to be involved in the cell door demonstration, or the dark cell demonstration. We'll do about 14 seconds to represent the 14 days that men were held down here. If you'd like to join in on this, I just ask that you step into one of these casemates here, or just near it. And just out of respect, no cell phones, talkie, lights, watches, things like that. Just try to preserve that experience. Everybody has different reactions to the dark. Hopefully, remember the men.
So they turn the lights back on, but
bread and water. From what we've gathered, the documents on the food is a little scarce, but 14 ounces of bread is what I read, and a bucket of water. Now, you're going to go to D Block on your audio tour. You're going to see what the Bureau of Prisons call the modern humane form of solitary confinement. You're going to see 6 solid steel cells where men were kept in complete darkness. About 6 months ago, I got an opportunity to go to San Quentin State Prison with some of my ranger colleagues, and we were allowed almost everywhere, led around by incarcerated folks, just really at the end of their journey. One place we were not allowed to go to, solitary confinement. All to say, this island starts a legacy that we're still living with, we're still unwinding today. I'll let you form your own opinion about that when you see solitary confinement today. You hear the stories on your audio folks. I want to show you just a few more things upstairs. And then we're going to kind of wrap up, and I want to transition you into the rest of your night because you've got a lot more to see and do. If you wouldn't mind, you can help us out by dropping these into the black bucket. That's our dirty bucket.
So when they turn the lights out, you can't see anything. It's black. And as you can imagine, you can't see your hand in front of your face. And you keep looking around your shoulder to think that there might be light behind you. But all it does is disorient you. And at 14 seconds or 30 seconds, I think, was tough. I can only imagine what 14 days would be like. No, I can't imagine. I get to see that sign.
We're already trying to count the seconds, right? Folks, I'm going to switch down a little bit. I got some folks coming off the stage. I just want to show you one more thing right there. I talked about, every time there's like a solitary confinement, at least back then, they're saying, well, we're going to come up with a more modern, humane form of solitary confinement. When the War Department comes out here and busts them for using medieval dungeons, well, I mentioned, in passing, the military says, and it's no secret, they don't hide this part, we're going to make these standing cells. Now, these aren't just myths and legends. We have, right over here, we still have these little eyelets. They're a little difficult to see, but there's these little hinges right here. And all you need to know is these are the dimensions of a standing cell, 23 by 12 inches. Right, that's standard measurement. But you get an idea, right? So basically you're going to be locked in here like this. Robert Simmons, that conscientious objector from Savannah, Georgia, the one in France, he is put in here for 8 hours a day. The newspaper expose, it says Mr. Simmons is put in a standing cell. There are wooden boards placed in front of his face, and in order to restore him to good health, military officials on Alcatraz march him on the windward side of the island for 8 more hours, only to restore his health so that he can do another stint in the standing cell. But again, those images, those illustrations, they put an end to this treatment in the standing cell here. Folks, I really wish I had you for like 2 more hours, 2 more weeks, 2 more months, maybe not you, but me definitely. There are so many stories on this island. There are so many layers of history out here on this island. What I really like about behind the scenes tour is that you're now going to be folded into what we call the night tour. So you're now going to kind of be on your own. I'm going to lead you back. We're going to go up the tier again. I'm going to lead you to the audio tour. And my colleagues, what they're going to do is they're going to set you up with a pair of headphones and a handheld device, 11 different languages to choose from. You're going to get to hear from both sides of the bars. Guards, incarcerated, you're going to hear some modern voices. Form your own opinion tonight. You're going to go around the cell house. You're going to go through D block. You're going to see the 1962 escape cells. But then afterwards, folks, as part of the night tour experience, we have a series of live talks. These are 15, 20-minute talks. We have an escapes talk tonight. We have a history of mugshots out here. We have a story about the occupation, something we didn't even touch out here. The reason why we're able to come out here as a national park, that big resistance movement in the late 1960s. And tonight, if you stick around, we're going to have another cell door demonstration. If you want to nerd out on the mechanics, the history of those cell doors beyond the 98, please go to Ranger Sienna's cell door demonstration. So right now, folks, we're going to head back up the tier. We're going to go to the opposite side. My colleagues are going to set you up with your audio tour. That's 30 minutes of your night. You can check out the bookstore if you're into that, get something warm out there, and then you'll see a program list, a list of live talks you can attend. I will give you this tip. Do not go down to the dock early if you can help it. If you just smoke or vape, I get it. But like everybody who's on the island right now is going to be on the 625 boat. Okay, we haven't left anybody behind in weeks. So. Just kidding. We'll find you. It's part of our job.
If we get left behind, what happens?
Oh man, it's gonna be a windy, cold night out here.
14 seconds turns into...
There you go. Yeah, 14 hours, yeah. I know, her staff bill comes out. This next part, folks, we got our night tour visitors, or just our general public. So we'll have to stay really, really close, okay? For this next part to be really efficient, okay? We're gonna move through against the stream here. Let's stay close. Before everybody scatters to the wind, just thank you so much for joining us tonight. This behind-the-scenes tour is in part a fundraiser to help out this national park, help do a lot of the restoration work that you might see going on here. It's my favorite thing I get to do out here as a historian. It's because of awesome groups like you all out here. So thank you so much for coming out here. Your night has just started. Thank you. With that, more stairs, more walking. I'm sorry. It's to a good place though. Let's follow close.
Are we going outside? I don't even know how many lights there are in this place. No, you go. Thank you.
Jordan's going to set you up with that next part.
you.
Right over here, my colleague Jordan. We're almost there, Jordan. Thank you.
Listen to him. Please.
Jordan, my right side and switch up to the next part. He's all set up. Jordan, yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So do you like